So yesterday was a really ugly performance by the Green Bay Packers, and there are a lot of problems yesterday, and I want to talk about some of the mistakes the Packers need to fix moving forward. But I wanted to start off here looking at this game yesterday offensively, because the Packers only put up 13 points against the Panthers, which I think the Packers should have scored way more in this one. I think they have the talent and ability to do that, but unfortunately they were not able to. And the thing about this game is the Packers had no issue moving the ball. They outgained the Panthers 369 yards to 265 yards. They had 5.9 yards per play to the Panthers' 4.9 yards per play. And so the Packers had no issue moving the ball down the field. They got into the red zone 5 different times. The problem yesterday was the fact that they could not convert in the red zone. And the thing is, that's not been something the Packers have struggled with this season. So it was an area that coming in, they had been one of the better teams in the NFL. Going into this game, the Packers had the 7th best red zone offense in the NFL, scoring 70% of the time. In this one, they only score once out of 5 times, 20% of the time. And that dropped them from 7th in red zone offense in the NFL to 12th in red zone offense after yesterday's performance. And so, on the one hand, that's why I'm not terribly concerned here, because it's not like this is a consistent theme we've seen, at least when it comes to red zone. This is just a really bad day by the Packers offense. And I do want to look at each of these drives here, because there were just so many mistakes, so many miscues here. And I have seen a lot of, I guess you could say, hate against Matt LaFleur, and a lot of people wanting him to no longer be the play caller. And I'd said beforehand, one of the other Packers offensive performances where they struggle a little bit, that I do see Matt LaFleur as one of the better play callers in the NFL. I think there's a reason the Packers consistently have one of the best offenses in the NFL since Matt LaFleur came in. At least, they're typically top 10, if not top 10, close to the top 10. And I still think that Matt LaFleur is a very good coach, but not that he hasn't done anything wrong or that he didn't make any type of mistakes. But there were so many miscues here that I do think at some point, you do have to hold players accountable. And I do get, with coaches that sometimes, it's up to the coaches to have their guys ready to play, but also it's up to the guys to go in there and effectively do what they're supposed to do. So there were 5 different red zone drives, and I was looking back at this earlier this morning, each drive. First one, they get to the red zone, Savion Williams fumbles the ball. That's on Savion Williams. You can't fumble the ball there. If the Packers even kick a field goal there, this game is much closer. If they score, it's a much different game from the start. So there you have a first miscue, fumble in the red zone. Second drive, the Packers are 1st and 10 at the Carolina 18, under center, 4-yard Josh Jacobs run, solid. Then you have a fumbled snap, false start on Elton Jenkins. Another mistake here by the Packers players. Elton Jenkins having a false start. And then that brings it to 2nd and 10, so basically taking away that Josh Jacobs run. And then you have, on this play, the Carolina 18, Jordan Morgan gets beat really quickly at right guard, and Jordan Love gets sacked. And so there you have another miscue just by a Packers player. You have Jenkins false starting. You have Jordan Morgan getting beat at right guard. And then on 3rd and 18, you put yourself in a really bad spot after getting sacked there. You have a false start on Christian Watson, pushing you back to 3rd and 23. And then the Packers have a short screen pass to Emmanuel Wilson, or at least he was like a little check down to the right side, and he drops it. And obviously in that play, the Packers were trying to probably get back and get a little closer for field goal range. And then McManus makes a 49-yard field goal. So right there, you have so many miscues. And that's where with me, it's like, okay, of course you'd like to say, okay, the head coach needs to have their guys ready to play, which is definitely the case. But also, players have to be held accountable. And on that drive, just the second drive there, after the first drive ends in a fumble, this one you have fumbled snap, false start. You have Jordan Morgan getting beat. You have Christian Watson false starting. You have a drop by Emmanuel Wilson. So it's so many mistakes. And so I do think you got to put it on the players, but also on the coach. So just terrible there in the first 2 red zone drives. Tons of mistakes. Then the third drive, the Packers have 1st and 10, Carolina 12. Love rolls right. Can't find anyone open. Everyone was just covered. Throws incomplete next to Tucker Kraft. And then you have 2nd and 10. Short pass to Josh Jacobs for 4 yards. Okay, solid. 3rd and 6. No one's open. Love throws to Dobbs. He's covered. And then you have another field goal there. So the Panthers defense was really just locking down on that series. A lot of the Packers receivers. And, at some point, someone has to get open and find a way to just, get open and so Jordan Love can find them. And then here we have series number 4. So, all day long to start the first 3 drives, miscues, struggles, Not good. Then series number 4, we have a Emmanuel Wilson 2-yard run in the first play in the red zone. And then we have a quick pass to Dobbs sitting at 3rd and 3. And then here you have a screen to Emmanuel Wilson. I have seen a ton of people on to Matt LaFleur for calling a lot of screens. The thing is, typically the Packers, their screen game is pretty effective. They're some of the best in the NFL. I was looking at some numbers earlier today. Currently, the Packers are 4th in the NFL in screen yards at 228. And in yards per attempt on screens, Jordan Love is 6th in the NFL at 6.3 yards per attempt. And so, the Packers screen game is actually pretty good, but not that there aren't moments where you have issues with it from time to time. But on this play in particular, if I can get back to my notes here, we have a screen to Emmanuel Wilson, and it would have been a first down if Malik Heath blocked his player, but he misses his block, gets pushed back, and Emmanuel Wilson is stopped. If he gets the block, it's probably a first down, and the Packers convert there. So on the one hand, it's like in hindsight, sure, you would like that screen not to be called if you would have known someone would have missed their block, but at the same time, I don't think you can get all into Matt LaFleur for calling a screen there when if a block is made, it's likely a first down. And then you have 4th and 8. The Packers go for it. Now here's where that's a bold decision by Matt LaFleur to be that aggressive. And sometimes it works to be aggressive. Sometimes it works out. 4th and 2 against the Cardinals a few weeks back, the Packers decided to go for it. It works out there. But 4th and 8 is much different than 4th and 2. And I understand the aggressiveness just because you struggled all day. Matt LaFleur wanted to get some points. Now, in hindsight, it's probably safer to go for the field goal. So I totally get, I don't know if that's the best decision. Definitely in hindsight, I get him wanting to be aggressive there. But, that's pretty risky. Nothing happens there. Jordan Morgan gets beat right away on that play. Elton Jenkins tries to help, but it's just way too late. And so on that play, 4th and 8, part of that's on the Packers offensive line once again getting beat, and that was an issue a few times in the red zone. You have to make your blocks. Matt LaFleur can't block, defensive linemen. And then to the last series here, this is one they actually score. You have an Emmanuel Wilson 5-yard run. Then you have a screen to Savion Williams. This time the screen works, gets you a first down. When Dobbs and Watson made their blocks, Savion Williams gets a first down, so the screen worked out there. And then you have an inside handoff to Wilson for 4 yards, and then Josh Jacobs 2-yard run and then runs it in for a touchdown. My laptop's about to die. Let me grab my charger here. And so looking at the Packers yesterday, it was a day that was not typical because, as I said, going into this game, the Packers had a top 10 red zone offense. So I'm not that concerned because, the amount of mistakes that were, just silly mistakes, they're definitely fixable. A lot of them are, fumbles and missed blocks, things like that. And so I guess my thinking with sort of the topic of this video is, do I think that, Matt LaFleur has something to do with these guys making all these mistakes? Yes, I think that, with a coach being the coach, they do bear responsibility when it comes to having their guys prepared, and I totally get that, and I think that that's definitely the case. At the same time, there are times where it's like, okay, a coach can come in and do what's necessary, and the guys have to come in and, make their blocks, not get beat consistently, and on a screen be able to block the guy that's standing in front of them. So at some point, it's on the players too. And so that's where, for me, I didn't leave this game going, oh no, like Matt LaFleur's the problem. If the Packers brought in someone else, the Packers offense would be looking great. I don't think that's the case. I think that the Packers players just did not play great here in the red zone today. And that wasn't the case all season long. So that's why I'm not that concerned. I am concerned about the fact that sometimes the Packers do play down to their opponents, and you would like to see a team here that I think has a ton of talent be able to play better than that. But in my thinking, I still think this is a very good Packers team. And I feel like sometimes it's easy to get like super high and super low based on, one bad game, one good game. Last week, I noticed a lot in the media, there's a ton of talk about Jordan Love being elite, which I talked about in my video, where I feel like if he continues to play at this level the whole season, maybe not how he played yesterday. He had a really bad, pick in that one. But I do think that Jordan Love has taken a massive step forward this season. And if he plays that way the rest of the year, I do think I'd see him as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. But we definitely need to see some more consistency. So sometimes, your team comes in, plays a bad game. That was the case today for the Packers offense. And I saw an interesting stat here. I forgot where it was, somewhere on X, where the Packers, they're one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL. I believe it was EPA per play. They're, at least when it comes to passing, they're one of the top ones still in the NFL. And so that's why I'm not that concerned. I think these are mistakes that can be fixed for the most part. And I don't think that the game against the Eagles, we're going to see the Packers come out as flat as they did here, in my opinion. So those are my thoughts. Hopefully the Packers can clean it up, play better football moving forward. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.